The interview with Mr. Elmer Frank
Palesh, yeah.
20 February 2001, Connecticut Street Armory, Buffalo, New York. Interviewer is Lieutenant Colonel Robert von Hassel. Videographer is Mr. Michael Akey. Elmer, tell me a bit about where you were born and raised.
Well, I was born in Buffalo in 1926. I was born in a house because my mother couldn't get to the hospital in time. And when I was 4, we moved to Wisconsin. All of our relatives live up around Wausau, Wisconsin. And they're all farmers, and they finally talked my father into coming up and buying a farm, which he did. But it was a bad situation. It was the start of the Depression. And you got $1 for a calf, and so it didn't work out. But the fella that he bought it from, he had gone back to Sweden when he sold the farm because he had lived there before and inherited property and that. But a year later, he came inquiring of my father if he could, buy the farm back. And my father said, sure. So he sold the farm back. And we moved back to Buffalo because my father kind of felt he was going to get his job back at J.H. Williams, where he had worked for 20 years before that. And sure enough, he went and was standing around all the guys out there waiting to try to get a job, And the personnel manager knew my dad good. He saw him. He says, come on, Frank, your machines are waiting for you. And then I was raised in the Riverside part of Buffalo. And, went to public school and then the 2 years of high school. And then I quit school when I was 16 and went to work for Curtiss-Wright. And I worked there for I was a machine operator. I worked right with my brother. And after working 6 months there, I turned 17 and I started thinking about going somewhere. So I joined the Navy and I got in, and that's pretty much it. And when I was leaving the post office up downtown, the Marine had their thing set up there. Hey, you passed everything, you're looking good, how about joining us? I said, no, I want to be a machinist. So.
What year was it that you joined the Navy?
1943. Yeah, 43. And I went in October, and I went to Sampson Naval Base there for 7 weeks, and then I got 7-day boot leave, and then I came back to the outgoing unit for 3 days, and then we got on a troop train. We had a nice troop train that had passenger Pullman cars, and we headed for Shoemaker, California, which was a dispersal point, and 5 days across the country it was. It was a beautiful ride. First time I'd been away. And it was really beautiful. So I was in that unit for about 3 days. And all of a sudden, early in the morning, they came around, I want some volunteers. And I didn't volunteer, he just said, come on. So we got out there, got onto the bus, sea bags and hammocks and everything, got onto the bus and headed for I guess it's the Embarcadero now. I was there a couple of years ago and I recognized around what pier we were at because I could see the Oakland Bay Bridge in it. It wasn't far from that. And so we got on board, foggy morning, dreary and everything, and we all walked up to the ship, and as you can see there, it's not very high off the water, see? So I'm looking there and, geez, this thing is so low in the water, what the heck, if a torpedo hits it, it's going to go down very fast. And, well, it's the same class ship, but it's an Atlanta-class ship. Same ship as the Atlanta, the Juno, and then there was a San Diego, and the San Juan. Those were the 4 original anti-aircraft cruisers. So we went aboard, and it was a mess there. The reason they needed us guys, I don't know, about 30 or 40 of us, like about 50 guys missed the ship because they just got back from Guadalcanal. But I guess Guadalcanal was secure, but they were in that area there. And started sailing, and I was seasick for 5 days. And when we got to Pearl Harbor, we dropped anchor right near the Arizona. It was setting in the water there. They had all the superstructure over on the land there. And we were there. When the ship stopped, everything seemed to still be moving, you know, because I was just getting over my seasickness. So from there, then we headed out for the islands and to make raids in that. We made raids on, the first raids on truck. That's where I came into this whole story. So I don't know if you want to know about anything about the ship, and I mean, I'm touting the ship as much as I am what I've got to say.
Well, tell me about life on board the USS
Yeah.
San Diego.
Well, it was good. I had my mess duty, and my first battle station was down in the magazine in the bottom of the ship, where we had all of the, you know, the powder and the missiles. And you would put those in, when they were firing the gun, you would put them in this little elevator. And you keep running it until it got up to the lower handling room for the turrets. Like right here, below here would be the lower handling room. And that'd be the lower handling room here, and then you would have the upper handling room, and then you would have the lower handling room. Well, I was there about a week or so, and then I went into the upper handling room. And then for a couple of days into one of the turrets. And then I was put on mess duty. So I went on that for 3 months. And I wanted to get into the engine room or the engineering department, and I'd asked for it, and so they put me into the engine room, and that's where I spent the rest of my time aboard ship. What they did, they would alternate. You'd be in the engine room for, say, 3 months. And then from there, you would go into a repair unit, which was out of the engine room. And they keep doing that, alternating it, so you'd have the 2 different jobs, you know. You wouldn't be in the engine room all the time.
So what did you do when you were in the engine room? What were you doing?
Well, maintained the machinery and operated pumps and worked the throttle board and all the different, you know, different duties. And then in port, you were cleaning all the time, scrubbing, diving down into the bilges at the bottom of the engine. The engine room was, well, you had the bottom of the engine room, and then you had graded platforms. You had 2 levels, upper level and lower level. And we always had to clean and maintain, repack valves and all that stuff, you know, the things that had to be done. So, and I ended up machinist mate 2nd class, which I thought was pretty good for the short time I was in, and I didn't go to the school or anything. When I first went down into the engine room, the machinist, I was a fireman 3rd class. I first went down there, and he showed me all the readings I had to take, you know. You had to take readings on bearings and water temperatures and mark them all down every hour. And I'd take my readings, and then he'd give me a clipboard, and he'd say, okay, you start here, and you follow that pipe, and you see where it goes, and make a picture of it, and if you have any questions, just ask me about it. I spent it, I don't know, about 2 weeks doing that whole engine room. Drawing the whole thing, taking the layout of it, you know, just like you would take a floor plan on a house. Well, I was doing this in the engine room.
That was to help you
Sweating like mad, yeah. So I think that helped me finally get my, you know, my rating.
What kind of repair work did you do when you rotated out of the engine room?
Oh, lucky enough we didn't have anything to do because we never got hit. What it was a unit that in case, you know, you got hit, you would have to go to that area and try to repair whatever it is, and you'd work with the shipwrights. We had those too, You'd be like probably helpers to them, see.
So it's like damage control? Or?
Yeah, it would be damage control and repair, and right.
So what were you doing when you weren't falling out on a damage control party?
Just, well, we had earphones and we could hear what's going on during air raids, because we were only in damage control during that time, in general quarters. And we'd listen to what's going on, and whoever was on the phones would say, they're out there now, the planes are coming in. Then they start firing like mad, and it'd start, oh. But most of the time you just sat there and caught up on some sleep, Yeah, so that was, there's so many things, that our ship, lucky enough, our ship never got hit, but only by friendly fire. And I happened to be there when it happened. We had, a destroyer was tied up alongside of us. Now a destroyer is lower than our ship, and it's shorter, maybe 2/3 the length of our ship. And they were tied up alongside of us, so we got up in the morning. I had breakfast, we had roll call, and then we were free until 8 o'clock. And well, the destroyer, they went to general quarters every morning, which meant that they had to go to their stations and everything. And I went to the fantail of the ship, and this was on the other side of the ship. But I was sitting about here. There was one of those bits that you wrap the ropes around, Well, I was sitting on that right at the fantail, and the destroyer was on the other side there. And this kid, they loaded the 20mm guns. They loaded the darn things. And this kid was standing there. And he's strapped in, and he's leaning back, and he's pretending he's aiming at something, All of a sudden, he let go with 3 shots. We had 40mm on the fantail here. And you had the armor around it, which wasn't very thick anyhow, but all of the ammunition was set in racks all around the pit there. Mm-hmm. And what happened, which I saw later, 2 20mm hit in the same place and went through. One other one hit, and I was about from here to that table when it happened. One other one hit, and it bounced off and went somewhere. I don't know. It should have gone back to the kid who shot it. And but what happened when the 2 went through? The ammunition started blowing up. It started just like fireworks. It's funny. It didn't seem like they were actually exploding, but it was almost like fireworks going off. No real booms or anything. But naturally, what was I to do? I started going for the other end of the ship. And his chief bosun mates, he looks at me and he says, "Where the hell are you going? Get over there." I just kept right on going. "Oh, you're going to be put on report." I kept right on going and stayed out of his sight for the next couple of days. What happened, they got the repair unit down there, and they had asbestos gloves on and that. And they went, the one guy went and he was throwing all the 40mm clips into the water. And so that was a close call for me. Friendly fire. And in these reports that we get, I read so many times, our ship was never hit. Our ship was never hit. But I think maybe they felt sorry for the kid that did it, and they covered it up. 2 days later, they had patches over the both dents. Well, the one, they didn't patch up, but when they went through, they patched that up.
So what actions was the San Diego in?
Oh, well, we've got 18 battle stars. Oh, wait, I have it right in my... This is a book that during the war we used to pay for our ice cream, 10 cents for the ice cream and 10 cents for, I think it was 15 cents for a Coke and ice cream and 10 for Coke. And all that money, barbershop money, was a quarter for a haircut. All that went into a general fund. And at the end of the war, they printed this, and now this would had we came back in about September 15th, 14th. We got back home to California, and that's was when they started working on this book. And I think that they actually, as I remember, it actually came in, were given to us in 1946 sometime, I think spring of 1946. At that time, we were laying the ship up. This is the path that we traveled in the throughout the Pacific, and 300,000 miles on the ship. That's what we got.
So you stayed with
In
me?
fact, I was in the engine room when the bridge called down and said that you guys just turned the screws 300,000 miles. It was twin screws. We had a forward engine room and a forward fire room, and an after engine room and an after fire room. And the forward engine room was what you call a main engine control. And they called us on the bridge and told us, you know, we just hit 300,000. And this would be all of the, not all of them. Here's truck here. Well, we didn't go to Wake, but they were at Wake at one time. I wasn't aboard at that time. Okinawa, all of them. And here we are ending up going into Tokyo Bay. And then coming back, that was a different manner of going, because we always went to Pearl Harbor. Coming back at the end of the war, we came up and we went around the Arctic Circle, and then came down the United States and then to Frisco. They call that the Circle Route.
So now you were there during the battles off Okinawa?
Yeah, right.
Was the ship heavily engaged in anti-aircraft defense?
Yeah. In fact, we took a crippled destroyer, and we took the wounded off of it. When a destroyer gets hit, I mean, it's bad. They're not that big thing. We took wounded off it. One guy died from the fire room, and the steam, you know. In fact, I happened to be walking by. They had him in a mess hall on a table, and they were giving him morphine, and he was just bouncing like that. And he died, and then we had the burial at sea. Oh, this is that article that I read, where I got the information for being here.
The man who was buried at sea, was that a shipmate of yours?
No, he was off of the Haggard, the USS Haggard, that was hit by a kamikaze plane. I don't know if you want to see this whole thing or what, but I mean...
Well, let's talk some more.
They got permission from Walt Disney on this. That's a ship there, the 5-inch guns. And do you want more questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you first got to the ship, you were, in essence, a replacement. The ship had
Yeah,
already been
we were
overseas.
replacing the guys. Some guys were being transferred, and others had board jump ship. Never got, but well, we'd be into the Pacific, and all of a sudden, a guy would show up. We'd be in port, and this guy would come up. Where the heck were you in the brig? They send him back out. Then it's back to the ship. See.
Did you? How did you get along with the guys who had already been there? I mean, did you?
Oh yeah, the guys were great. Yeah.
You feel like you fitted in with
Yep.
the ship's company?
Yep. Oh, you had guys that I was a young guy, you know, and they'd fool around, you know. And about one guy took me under his wing and he says, "Look, just laugh." So, and then I got along good with everybody, yeah. And then when we got back to the States, we'd go on liberties together, the ones that were still in, you know. But, yeah, I loved the guys, yeah.
Did you ever feel like you were cut off from what was going on? You're down in the engine room. The ship's fighting a battle.
Yeah, well, the only thing you wondered about was where those airplanes were. Because the guns would be shooting like mad, see? And when they fire those 5-inch guns, they blow them out, you know, with compressed air. Well, there's a reason they blow it out, because all the stuff from the silk powder bags, you know. They put the projectile in, and I don't know if it was 2 bags behind it in a 5-inch gun. And that all had to be cleared out by compressed air. And down in the engine room, you have these blowers. Well, they get the fresh air from up on the main deck, see, in the bulkhead on the main deck. And they'd be firing a lot, and if the wind was blowing the right way, that stuff would come right down and go all over. You'd have all black specks on you. And didn't happen all the time. It depends where the wind was blowing.
Let's go back even a little further. Before the war, you were working for Curtiss-Wright?
Right, yeah.
What were you
I
doing?
operated turret lathe and automatic screw machines. Yeah, with my brother. We both.
What kind of aircraft were you manufacturing?
Well, those were the P-40s, and then they were working on C-47s and the Republic Thunderbolts. Those were the different parts that, we machine out over there.
And what was it like working for Curtiss-Wright?
I liked it, yeah. I liked it, yeah. Yeah, because I like machines, and that was my main interest.
Was the plant going around the clock, or did you work?
Oh yeah, 24 hours a clock. I was lucky I was able to work the day shift. I went in as an observation trainee for a month, and then they put me on, a turret lathe there. Simple operations, nothing common. I didn't do any setup jobs or anything like that, but in fact, at home I've got me an antique lathe, a good sized lathe, and I got a shaper, lathe and a shaper, metal shaper, It's just a hobby. I got them and repaired it and rebuilt it. But yeah.
Were there a lot of women workers?
Oh yeah, sometimes you'd see them coming by crying.
What was that all about?
Well, I don't know. Somebody hollered at them or something, once in a while. Not much, a couple of times. Yeah, and it was a big plant, yeah. My brother says to me, we were working there, he says, 50 years from now, this place won't mean anything, it won't even be here anymore. And sure enough, right after the war, Curtiss closed down. Mm-hmm. Then they had another plant over on Grider Street in Buffalo that they made fan blades, precision fan blades for the jet engines and that. They made other parts with them. Finally, they left then too.
Were there a lot of special activities going on at Curtiss? Special activities going on at the Curtiss plant because of the war?
Well, they had, you mean like recreational activities?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they had bowling teams and that, yeah. But I didn't participate. I was just young. I'd get home and start having sodas and that or with my buddies,
Anything special with war bond drives or?
Oh yeah, they had
security?
those. Yeah, they had those. One incident that I just before I got there was an incident where a test pilot went through the roof of the paint shop at Curtiss out there. I forget how many people were killed, but they had a pretty bad fire there too. Naturally, with all that paint and all the chemicals and everything there. Yeah, that was pretty sad there. And they kind of, I think on the first anniversary, they remembered them. Then there was, they had something about the P-40s. Something about they were making some bad engines or something, and they were having problems, and they had to drive there, to say, well, no, that's not the way it is. The P-40 was a good airplane, but it didn't. I don't know. I think the Zero even could outfly the P-40. It wasn't the Navy. In fact, the planes that the Navy had, they had the F4F, and that one wasn't as good as the Zeros. When the Zeros came after them, those guys used to try to avoid them. But when they got the F6Fs, they were a better airplane, and then they got the Corsairs. Mm-hmm. And the other airplanes they had were the Curtiss. They had Curtiss-Wright dive bombers. That was a good airplane. Yeah. But I lived in Riverside, and it was about a 35-minute ride from Riverside out to the Buffalo airport, because that's where Curtiss was.
Now, had the war changed your daily life in Buffalo that much?
Pardon?
Did the war change your daily life in Buffalo?
No, no. Well, the only thing that we said, the neighbors said, gee, that kid's quiet. He's not like he used to be, because I used to be a holy terror, you know.
And what changed?
Either singing and hollering. Oh, it calmed me down, you know, seeing the war and that, you know. And learning a little more about life, which I needed to learn. Because I was 17 when I went in. I had 2 birthdays aboard ship. I was born in July 7th, and I had my birthday in 44 and in 45. I was aboard ship.
You know, your first station in the Navy was Sampson.
Yeah, right, Samson, the boot camp.
What was that like?
That was good, that was good. The thing about that is we were kind of at a disadvantage. Because me and about 10 other guys happened to go into a unit that was comprised mainly of guys that flunked out of the college, Hobart College, for the officer training program. They failed out, so they put them right into boot camp, and I was with them. Now all these other units knew it, you know. And they were going around laughing at these guys. And I didn't have anything against anybody, you know. They didn't have it, but they were just teasing them, you know. But we were the best marching unit there because they had a little previous ROTC or whatever they had, I don't know. But anyhow, but we got through it okay, and it wasn't a problem. But that was the only thing.
What did Sampson look like? What was it physically like?
Well, it was right on Seneca Lake. From our barracks, it was probably a 15-minute walk down to the lake itself. Today it's a park over there. And they do have something in memory of a little museum there today. I haven't been there, but maybe I'll get there. But you had the grinder in the center. Then you had a huge mess hall. It was made out of these beautiful curved woods, you know. It's like what would you call that? The hut type mess hall. Yeah, only huge, out of a beautiful wood, all varnished and everything. And then you had the grinder, and then you had the field, the inside field of the grinder. And then you had the units, the different units, the different buildings. The like C unit would have C1, C2, C3. I think about 10 or 11 buildings and around there.
What was the grinder?
The grinder was where you ran around there, especially if you were in trouble and had to get up in the middle of the night. They had something on you. I didn't have that problem, but our guys did, because one fella claimed his watch was missing. And naturally we're going to say that it was stolen. And nobody confessed or anything. So one of the punishments was to get up at night and go around the grinder. And, you know, walk or run so far and then walk and then go back into the unit and then go to bed. And, but, I don't know, about a week or so later, the guy found his watch. So it was underneath something, in his locker, I guess, or something, where he hadn't looked. Now, was it returned? Did he actually lose it? Well,
What kind of things did you learn at Sampson?
oh, we marched. I wasn't a very good marcher, and after that I never marched again. We went to things, health class. We went to a health class there for, mainly learning about venereal diseases. And the pictures they showed, I'm telling you, you wouldn't want to go near a woman for a week. It was mainly classes and lectures and that stuff. And then we had physical training. That was a good part of it too. And then we had the obstacle course. We went through that just one time. And I remember we had some Southern boys there, and boy, it was in November, and one of the guys comes in. He says, "Hey," he went to his buddies from the south. He says, "Hey, come on, look at this, look at this. It's snowing. I never saw. You should see it." They said, "We can see it out the window. Come on, you have to go out. You have to go out in it and see it." Naturally, we thought snow. Yeah, I was born in 1936 when they had that horrible snowstorm in Buffalo. Everything was tied up. The only thing that got through were the streetcar plows, and then after that, the streetcars.
So when you first shipped out onto San Diego, what were you thinking?
Pardon, yeah.
When you first shipped out onto San Diego,
Yeah.
what were your thoughts? What did you think would happen?
Well, I was thinking, I was praying too, and I was thinking, really, what's going to happen? And then after a while, I just got numb to the fact of what was going to happen. I mean, I was kept so busy doing stuff that the only time I really thought about it was when the guns were going off, when they were firing at the enemy. And the first time was scary, and then after each time it was a little less scary, because you kind of got a little, you got immune to it then, And we had faith in our gunners,
What do you think of your chief petty officers and officers?
Oh, great. All of them were great, yeah. In fact, I phone my chief up every once in a while. He lives in Maine, Norwich, something like that, Maine. Yeah, I visited him about 10 years ago. We were up there on a vacation, and I dropped in. He was great. And it's the funniest thing. He was from Maine, yeah, no, yeah, short answers, And it's a funny thing, all the time in the engine room he was like that. He hardly talked to anyone. And when we went to the first reunion, he was there. And you couldn't stop this guy talking. You couldn't get a word in edgewise. He changed from, after he was out of the service, he changed so much, I couldn't, all the other guys said, "Did you talk to Fenton yet?" "Yeah, holy moly, what happened? The guy's talking like that." Oh, he was great. He was a great guy. And then all the machinist mates, first class, second class, they were, you had some of them who would kind of, we had a couple of rebels too, that it's not that they didn't like it, but they kidded around with it,
So after the war, you came back aboard the San Diego into San Francisco,
Yeah.
and she was laid up at that time?
No, we were part of what they call the Magic Carpet Fleet. Did you ever hear the Magic Carpet Fleet?
What was that?
That was capital ships, warships that went overseas and would bring naval personnel back. We only made one trip, really, but other ones brought Marines back and all that. And we made a trip to Samoa, American Samoa, and we bought, I don't know, I think it was about 200 Navy guys back. Now, being on Samoa, you can imagine the time they had during the war. Some of them got married, all that, married the Samoan girls there. And so that was called the Magic Carpet, bringing all these guys back. During the war, we came back one time and we bought 300 Marines back. They had fought in Guadalcanal and Tarawa, and we brought them back. They were great, yeah, they were great. And all the Navy guys were giving them their beds and everything, yeah. Yeah, I get a little emotional, Yeah.
The Navy guys were giving the Marines the beds?
Yeah, giving them their beds. The Navy and the Marines, there's always some, yeah. It's not really like that. The only time I had, it wasn't a problem with Marines, but we had our work done in Mare Island Navy Yard in Vallejo, California. I think that's it was a submarine and destroyer base, but our ship was small enough so that the dry dock could take us to. And well, I was going on Liberty with a buddy, and we're walking by the administration building over to the, it's an island, we get the boat over to Vallejo. And we were walking along, and there were these two guys were sweeping the sidewalk, and two Marines were standing up there with, I don't know, I guess they were machine guns. And so we walked right by. But the guys were sweeping, they were sweeping over the sidewalk. They were sweeping over here, the Marines were up on the steps here, and we walked through here. So we walked through and we got about 15 feet away, and all of a sudden they hollered and they went like that with their guns. Get back here. Don't you know you're not supposed to walk between a guard and his wards? So we just turned around and walked back, and then we walked and went around them, and then we continued on. Which we never knew you weren't supposed to. I know it now. Whenever anybody's guarding their prisoners, you know, if you're in the air, you walk, give them a wide berth, you know.
Well, we're coming down towards the end of the tape, so bring me up to speed here. What happened after the war? You came back. What did you do after the war?
Oh, I went to, could I tell you anything about the book here?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just, because this is something I mean, I figured you'd want to see. No, I'm not wrong. We got Disney's permission for that. Well, there's a lot of pictures of this is when we had a paint job, a new paint job there.
Elmer, if you want to put it on the tape, you need to hold it up so we can see.
Oh, okay. That was the new paint job there. And okay, now we got, this is when the Hornet was hit, this is the Big E. And it was all bringing stores aboard, and activities there. Oh, this is a kid that had his, I went to school with him, school PS 65 in Riverside in Buffalo. Don Lazar, well, he's passed away now, but God bless him, let him be with the good Lord. And this was giving him a haircut, and somebody decided to take his picture. But at one of the reunions, I got the two of them together. The two same guys. And I says, well, take your fingers and pretend you're giving it a haircut. So that's that one there. Okay, I'll go to the nitty gritty of the whole thing. These are our officers, all of our officers. And now this is ship's company. As of when we were in Tokyo Bay, they took all of the pictures of the ship's company. Now I'm in one of these. I'm not gonna. Oh, this. Well, I'm right there. The one with the X there. I'm right on the end there. And then we have all the names and addresses of all of them. Okay, now. I think I mentioned to you that we were the first Task Force 31, the first group to go into Tokyo Bay.
Well, let's hold that thought there because we're just about out of tape.
Yeah.
So let's take a short break and put in another tape.
Okay, good.
Well, let's do that right now. Okay, show me the tape, or show me the picture. I'll zoom right in on it. Now explain what that picture is.
Okay, this is a picture when we tied up at Yokosuku Naval Base, and they surrendered the base to the United States Navy at that time. And this is when all the Japanese came aboard with their charts and papers and everything. And I think today they're still using that base. The Navy still uses the Yokosuka Naval Base. That was the first thing they surrendered. And we were the first capital ship to tie up in Japan after the war.
Did you get any shore leave when you were there?
Oh, no, because we wanted to all go home as quick as we could. In fact, we were ready to go home. The war was ended, we were ready to go home, and we got the call that we're going to be chosen to go into Tokyo Bay and surrender the base to the United States Navy. So, right after this was the day they signed the peace, that's the day we left. Yeah. What happened, the first thing they surrendered before they signed the peace, they surrendered the base to the United States Navy. And we were the flagship of we had Admiral Badger was our admiral. We were the flagship of the fleet that went in to take the surrender. We had four destroyers and 2 minesweepers and 1 troop ship with Marines that went in. But the first thing we did then was to turn over the surrender of the base to the United States Navy. And these here are, this is when they brought a pilot aboard, Japanese pilot.
Right, so we can see it on here.
Okay, we brought a Japanese pilot aboard here, and we were at battle ready when we went in, because we went through some narrower straits, and all along the shore batteries were all in there, and we didn't know whether they'd open up or what. You know, we were some diehards. In fact, we were shooting down planes after the war, they said that they surrendered, you know. And this was entering Tokyo Bay here. And here's the Nagato. It's a hulk of a battleship, one of their famous battleships. This is the base itself. And this is when they were coming aboard for negotiations. And here's the derrick that were tied up, you saw in the previous picture. They brought these guys aboard on an old tug here. They didn't even have a decent launch to bring. And here they are. They're frisking them, checking them out. And this is getting pictures closer to the base itself. And these are bombed out barges and all that. All along here, they're on the shore. They're all kinds of junk and stuff they're trying to salvage, you know. And these are Marines going in from the troop ship that brought them in. They went in, and one of them got killed. He was going around in the Navy Yard there and picked up something, and it was booby-trapped with a phosphorus grenade, and it burned him. And they took him, because we were the only ship with any hospital facilities, sick bay, and they brought him, and he died. But we left, and we buried him at sea on the way home. But they finally signed this is where they were signing the surrender, so everybody wanted to get a bird's eye view, you know, of that.
Yeah, that was aboard the battleship Missouri.
No, this is the San Diego, the USS San Diego.
That's the surrender of the Navy.
Oh, pardon me, the surrender of the naval base, yeah, Yokosuka Naval Base. Yeah, and they're all down here. I noticed one of the Japanese was, he had charts with him, you know, and all of a sudden the B-29 flew over, and they're talking and all, and sitting there, and all of a sudden he takes that thing and he's looking up at that B-29 like that. You want to get a straight view of it. The planes that were just bombing them. Okay, now, here we are here. I was standing right here, and I saw the 2 old boys. Here's Admiral Halsey and Nimitz. Admiral Nimitz and Bull Halsey is behind him. Oh. See if you can see them closer. Here's Halsey. They came aboard our ship, and in fact, Halsey went down and got a haircut down, a quick haircut in the barber shop while they were talking with our captain. And here you can see it here. That's a 1937 Packard sedan. They got into that for their first ride into Tokyo. So I was fortunate, at least at that time, to actually see Halsey and Nimitz. And this is this is our captain. He's just standing there saying goodbye to the Yokosuka Naval Base. And then we left. He came aboard, and this was when we were coming home. Uncle Sugar at last. This is the Golden Gate Bridge, and on the left side of a hill, right in the bay there, that's what they had written, "Welcome home. Well done."
So you left Tokyo Bay before the surrender ceremony?
No, the day it was the day it was signed. I have a thing. Wait, I just had a quick. See, I got this from our Naval Association. They print stuff up in the the 28th of August. Yeah, that was when we went in. Yeah. The next day, August 30th, the San Diego became the first Allied warship to dock in Japan in World War II. Oh, and it explains the dry dock was full of backup bombs, plywood gliders with bombs on them. And it became Admiral's Day because Chester Nimitz and Fleet Admiral Bull Halsey came aboard.
And you were in the harbor until the 2nd of September for the Japanese?
Yeah, right. Okay, here it is here. On September 1st, we cast off from the dock and returned to anchorage in Tokyo Bay. We dropped the anchor. Okay, we took on passengers, 250 Navy guys and some Marines in it, for a trip homeward bound. And on September 2nd, anchors away, we were underway homeward bound. And that was when we left, when they were signing. And like I mentioned, we took the Great Circle route, past Alaska, and then down to San Francisco.
Do you remember seeing any of the ceremony, the surrender ceremony, before you left?
Yeah. Oh no, the actual surrenders? No, because the Missouri was anchored out there, and we were anchored away near them. But I mean, we couldn't see them. I would have had to have a pair of binoculars to actually see people, any motion or activities aboard, you know what I mean?
Do you remember?
A lot of small boats were going up to it, yeah.
Do you remember the flyover of the planes?
No, I don't recall that. No.
Did you ever get ashore in Japan?
No, we got ashore so we could say we were ashore in Japan. All the engineers go ashore. Stand there and baloney each other, and then come back aboard, and we'll send another group then, you know. So we could say we were in Japan. I mean, we were mainly interested in getting home. We really, didn't think much about doing anything there.
So basically you just got off on the dock?
Yeah, we got off on the dock and walked around a little, and yeah, that was it. Yeah, we didn't get into town or anything.
All right, well, tell me what happened after you got back to the United States.
Okay, after I got back, I mentioned, I went to Samoa. I was discharged in May of '46, and then I started hitchhiking home, but I didn't have very good luck. We decommissioned the ship in Everett, Washington, and it was a private shipyard there, and we decommissioned the ship there. And then, in fact, I wanted to get discharged on the West Coast, and the engineering officer said, geez, I was ready to go in 1 week. And he says, we need you guys a little more help here for get caught up on some of this work, decommissioning it, engine room work. So me and my friend, he said, stay in 10 days and you'll be discharged at Bremerton. So we stayed in the 10 days, and then we got discharged in Bremerton. We got travel pay and all that, And I said goodbye to my friend in Seattle there, and he went one way and I went the other way. And I got a couple of rides, but I got stranded a couple of times there. And then I got a ride with one truck driver that was going. He had the tandem truck loaded with beer, And I got a ride with him through the Cascades, which is a scary ride, riding with a guy like that with all that beer. And he's downshifting and upshifting. He's constantly shifting this thing. Like I say, he had a load of beer, and Olympic beer, was it, or one of those. And so I got to Spokane, and I thought, oh, forget it, I'm going to take a bus home. So I took a bus. Took a bus to Chicago, and I stayed with relatives there for a week. And then I got the train and came back to Buffalo. And at first, I went to work for my brother. He had a small machine shop, and I worked for him for about a year. I think it was about a year, and then things slowed down, and the little shops weren't getting. It was all subcontracting. And then I got another job in a machine shop, and I worked there as a machinist. And then that place went into receivership. And then I went to another place. I got a job. This was all automatic screw machines I worked on. And then this was in 46. Yeah, it was still 46. I worked in that. No, 47. Yeah. I worked, and it was Chapman Transmission. They made tank transmissions during the war. And then he went into a new business. He was making what they call thin wall coupling. You take two pipes, put them together, and you put this coupling in there, and just tighten the coupling, and it locks the pipes together. Like they used it on electrical fittings, electric pipes where the wires had to run through. They had to be protected in pipe. But what happened with that? He left town because Binghamton gave him a building to start making this new product, and they give him all kinds of tax write-offs and everything. And this was years ago, in 47. So he left town. And then I was out of a job for about a month, and I finally got a job in Trico. Trico windshield wipers, Trico products. And I worked there 40 years. So, and I retired in 88. I retired at 62 in 88, and I had luck over there. I mean, I had a good job. I first went on to the screw machines, and as an apprentice, and then that slowed down. What happened? They went into a new line of making parts. They made them out of powder metal. You know how you make a pill? It's pressed. The powder is pressed. Well, what they do, they had these dies, and they had powder metal come down a hopper into the die, and would wipe it off, and then it would come down and press it. And the parts would pop out. And they were making little bearings and all different kind of parts. And that knocked the screw machines down, see? So that's why, then I went into a cable stranding department. Years ago, the cable used to run the windshield wipers. They had cables under there. And we had our own cable stranding department. And I was in that for about 7 or 8 months, and then the boss came up to me, and they bought all their fine wire. It was 7/1000ths of an inch thick, 7, 8, and 9, and it was 49 wire cable. And when my boss came up to me, he says, how would you like to start up in a wire drawing department? They didn't have the machines yet or anything, but He says, we're going to go to Detroit. And the two bosses I went with, he says, we're going to learn something about making carbide wire drawing dies. To draw the wire, you know, you have a whole series of dies. You start with a 35,000 wire, and then it goes down to all the graduated sizes until and then it comes out and goes onto a spool. Well, I was to make the dies. So we went there for a week. It was the Carboy company, and General Electric owned it. And we went there and we got all the information and samples and all that. And then we came back and set up the die room, and they bought the wire drawing machines, and we started from there. I learned to make dies and taught others to make them. And then and finally the cable stranding went out. And I thought, uh-oh. Or it was going to go out. And finally, I was the only guy left in that department, and we only had jobbers, you know, replacement parts. We had that. Well, meanwhile, while I was doing that, they purchased a rolling mill. It was a small rolling mill. You know, the arms on the arm stock, it used to be bright, shiny metal at one time. Now they're all black. But that was stainless steel. And we had a mill, a 3-stand mill that would go into a set of rolls, and it would flatten it so much, and it would go through these edgewise rollers. Then it would go into another stand, flatten it more, edge it, and then to another one, and then out onto the big coil, a 2,000 pound, a 1-ton coil. That's what we made, rolled it up on.
So
And I stayed on that. I was lucky to be chosen. They chose me for that too, so I was
what have
lucky.
you been doing since you retired?
Oh, cutting grass. I got 16 acres and about 2 acres of grass at least. I think I should abandon some of it as I get older. I have a little arthritis, and that little tractor is getting hard to steer. And, well, we traveled a couple times. We went to Tahiti 2 times. And, like I say, I have those machines. I'm repairing those. I just overhauled a rototiller for my son. Lucky my son lives right near me.
I think you got married and had children?
Yeah, oh yeah. I got married, and our first child died of cancer at 5. And now I have my daughter now. She's 51, I think. And my son is 46 or something like that. And I've got 8 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. Yeah, so I keep busy. We take little trips and that. I don't care to travel too much overseas. My wife went to, she took my daughter to Egypt, a Mediterranean cruise, Paris, and what the heck is that? Yeah, I think that was the 3 places she went. And then my wife went with her girlfriend to Venezuela. She saw Angel Falls in Venezuela. There was a camp, Canaima camp up there. She went with her girlfriend, and then she went with another girlfriend. They went to Portugal, and they drove around Portugal. But I stayed home and enjoyed myself. I got a break.
When you look back now, after all these years, what stands out in your mind the most about your service?
Being in the service? The people. Pardon me, but they were great. And, you know, even at reunions, I mean, it's real, you know, it's nice to be with them. Yeah.
You kept up with your shipmates over the years?
Well, 2 of them mainly. One I call them often. One in the state of Washington, just about 40 miles north of Seattle, and the other one is in Maine. And those mainly. There were about 14 people on board the San Diego from the Buffalo area. Yeah. Like I said, this kid I went to school with, and a couple of them. One of them his name was Del Grasso. He was a survivor of the first ship sunk, and can't think of the destroyer, and I'll think of it later. The first destroyer sunk by the German submarine during World War II.
Reuben James?
Reuben James, you got it. Yeah, Reuben James. He was one of the survivors, yeah.
You think your service changed your life?
Yeah, it made it better.
How so?
I think I'm a better person for it, but I don't know if everybody else does that know me, but I mean, I have all the love of all my grandchildren. Yeah, it calmed me down and gave me a better perspective. Because I came from a family of 8 kids, and I'll tell you, we didn't have much. Yeah.
Did you use the GI Bill at all after the war?
No, I didn't. No, because I got a decent job and then. Oh, one of my friends wanted me to go to a commercial flying school, and I'd put in for it and everything. And I had a car, and I had an accident and totaled it, and I got a notice to come to school, and that was out at the airport. So I had a decent job, so then I didn't. I never used the bill. Yeah.
Are you proud of what you did when you were in the Navy?
Oh yeah. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I mean, I think I accomplished something, and I'm glad I'm glad I was there. You know. Yeah, I have self-satisfaction. Yeah, so.
Well, we're coming to the end of the tape. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Gee, I don't know, except to thank you very much for this chance, and I think that about covers it. And I'd like to add that somebody help us with this USS San Diego business that they're trying to do. They're putting up a memorial in San Francisco, and what we're trying to do is to get recognized, because all the time we watch movies, the war at sea, you know, and all that. And I thought maybe someday I'd see the San Diego going into Tokyo Bay, because we were loaded with reporters, newsreel people, and everything. Now, one guy claimed to have had that, but I guess a copy of the film, but it's so darn deteriorated that you can't use it. But there are records of it. And there was a direct broadcast to the United States from our ship, but they got it over here at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's when they heard it was being announced, you know, because of the time difference. So maybe in our organization, they're trying to get a stamp. One of the senators is trying to have a stamp for our ship, because they've had it for other navies. I think they had the Missouri and a couple other things. So maybe it's pie in the sky or something. I don't know. But I think actually it would be interesting to know, for people to know that the surrender, and it was being used for so many years after that as our Navy base. Yeah.
It is interesting. And we thank you for coming today.
Right. Well, like I say, I thank you very much for having me.